Hey guys, E10 here from Sunbros, and today I am really excited to be bringing you guys another how to play Arena of Valor video. Today we're going to be covering the beginner's guide to warriors. Before we get started guys, I just want to say if you guys enjoy the content, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course check out all our other how to play videos and our new how to win series, as well as our Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday night live streams. The first thing we're going to talk about today is we're going to cover what some of the jobs of a warrior is on a team. Some of these things might seem really simple to you guys, but if you guys give me an opportunity to elaborate, I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean and why they're so important and way more difficult than some people think. The first job of a warrior is to be an off tank. And what I mean by off tank is that they are there to help clean up any situations that happen during a team fight or a situation in which the tank is either preoccupied or dead. These things include, but are not limited to, helping peel. The term essentially means that if one of your main damage dealers, such as your assassin, marksman, or mage, gets jumped on by the enemy team, that you help facilitate a way for them to get out of danger and back to doing damage. Another job of an off tank or a warrior is to be on the front lines of a team fight, especially at the beginning, and causing distractions and disruptions to the enemy team's plans. For example, being the one who actually does crowd control or attack the enemy squishies or the enemy damage dealers such as mages, assassins, and marksmen in order to give your team an advantageous situation to win a team fight. Most warriors come with some form of AoE crowd control, and most of them are very good initiators. Now ideally you have a regular tank or a true tank who has the ability to initiate and do AoE crowd control, and then both the tank and off tank or warrior have the capability of entering into a team fight and causing the maximum amount of possible disruption in order to give their damage dealers a really solid chance of winning. So essentially you could easily boil down the job of a warrior or an off tank to being right smack dab in the middle between assassin and tank. While they still very much have the duties of a tank, and as in their job is to help clean up for what the tank can't, they also have the jobs and duties of dealing lots of damage, which is why I've said multiple times throughout the history of the channel that being a warrior constitutes being mostly half damage, half tank. I'd say that in a perfect scenario for a team, the tank is the one who initiates the fight, distracts the enemy tank, and peels for his own team's damage dealers, while the off tank is the one who actually jumps into the enemy backline, causing massive AoE crowd control, dealing damage, and opening up the correct doors for his damage dealers to get in and do the appropriate damage to knock down and kill the enemy damage dealers. The reason why the off tank or warrior position is so important is because you can't have everyone on your team but one be very squishy. I'm sure many of you experienced a team fight when you only had one true damage soaker or tank of any kind go where you jump in dealing damage and every single one of your squishies just gets bursted down one after the other until all that's left is that single tank trying to figure out how to get out of dodge because he has no one left to help him. The more people like a tank and an off-tank warrior who are able to soak up damage gives it a much higher opportunity, especially when played well, to give your damage dealers the freedom to do what they need to do in order to win a team fight. While we jokingly say that playing a tank is a thankless job in the back scenes that no one ever recognizes, and assassins are the superstars jumping the back line, getting lots of kills and glory, I suppose you could say a warrior is either a humble assassin or a glory-seeking tank. Next, we're going to be moving on to the pros and cons of playing warrior, starting with the pros, which are the things you're going to want to focus on if you're playing as a warrior and the things you're going to want to ignore or avoid if you're playing against them. The first pro is that a good tank should always give you a really solid balance of damage and tankiness. If a warrior has too much damage, he will be depriving his team of having a secondary damage soaker, which allows and gives the opportunity for the damage dealers on that team like the marksman, assassin, and mages to really do their job during a team fight. On the flip side, if an off tank or a warrior builds too tanky, then the issue is that the team will lack overall damage, especially if during a well-played team fight, only one of the main damage dealers is able to get to the enemy squishies or backline to do his own damage and wrap up those kills. The second pro for warriors is that they generally offer you great crowd control. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but if you're playing a warrior that doesn't offer the team really solid or really great crowd control, then you're probably playing the wrong warrior, and you're going to find that many of the people who make the top 5 best warriors list are going to offer great crowd control, and many of the heroes who are on the top 5 worst warriors list are not going to offer you great crowd control. The next pro for warriors is that they generally are very good initiators. This is not a absolute must-have for a good warrior, but it definitely is a nice piece to have as a part of your toolkit. The ability to properly engage a fight, as warriors and tanks generally are able to do, can be a big-time game changer in who's fighting from an advantageous position and who's fighting from a point of disadvantage. And our final pro for warriors is that the great warriors in this game, the top 5 best warriors that you're going to see in that video, have great mobility. More so than tanks, warriors are actually required to be able to keep up their mobility during team fights so they can continue to be disturbers of the peace for the enemy team. A warrior without good mobility who simply cannot keep up and is commonly kited by the enemy team is much more of a detriment to his team than a help. Now on to the cons of playing warrior. These are things you're going to want to avoid if you're playing as a warrior, and some of the things that you're going to want to take advantage of if you're playing against them. The first con is that warriors are very generally not elite in damage or in tankiness. If you try to take a warrior too far or too deep into the tankiness or the damage sphere, more than likely you're playing that hero out of position, and it's going to cost you and your team the ability to have the biggest impact. The second con that we're going to talk about today for playing warriors is that they are not true tanks. Too many people in Arena of Valor try to take a warrior as the full-blown main true tank of the team, and they simply cannot get tanky enough to be able to absorb all the damage that a true tank like Crest or Thane would be able to take. And it creates a very big problem for your team because it exposes them in a team fight, because that person is simply not able to take as much damage and dies, or has to get out of harm's way while exposing and probably opening up his squishies and damage dealers to death. I'm sure you'll find our final con for warriors pretty funny, but hear me out. Warriors are not ranged heroes. And the reason why I mention that is because if you play a warrior without good mobility and without a good initiation of some type, you will be very susceptible to getting kited around, slowed, and crowd controlled to the point where you're just going to be ineffective for your team, which is the exact reason that many of these heroes are not played at high elos. And lastly, we're going to be covering what I like to call complementaries, which is essentially character traits and personality traits of the hero class warrior to see if they line up with your personality traits and the way that you want to play the game. The first personality trait of a warrior is that they're more forgiving than other classes. Because they're tanky and they do damage, you can get away with a lot more than you can on, say, a squishy like a mage, assassin, or marksman. That actually leads me excellently into my second point, that warriors tend to be more beginner friendly. Not only are they more forgiving like we just talked about, they tend to have more simple kits, as well as the fact that they are not nearly as vital of a rule as a main damage dealer or a tank. The next personality trait is that warriors tend to be very aggressive. Their job is to get up into the thick of things, cause a lot of disruption, a lot of havoc for the enemy team, and if that's something that you enjoy to do, then warriors might be the hero for you. And the last complementary or personality trait of a warrior is they tend to be really good all-around choices. If you pick any of the warriors in our top 5 list, I can tell you with some certainty that you'll fit into most team comps and you'll be very effective as long as you take the time to learn to play them. Alright guys, that is it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to check out our top 5 best warriors coming out tonight, also, and our top 5 worst warriors coming out tomorrow. Thanks for watching guys, and as always, till next time.